All-pro left tackle Tyron Smith back at practice. According to Jerry Jones, Smith could be back protecting Dak's blind side as early as this Sunday against Houston. Now, Smith has been out since August with that knee injury. And since 2020, Smith has only played in 13 games, but when he's been on the field, listen, the Cowboys' sack rate drops. Their yards per play moves from 5.5 to 6.2, and the difference is the same as moving from 20th in the league to tied with the Chiefs, the most yards per play over that span. All right, so, Graz, the interesting thing is not only Smith, supposedly they're getting James Washington back. Remember They signed him in the offseason, got him away from Pittsburgh. So with all of this, are we talking about this all-Cowboy offense now? Is they're getting Super Bowl?
Yeah, look, they're going to get better, right? And Tyron Smith, if he comes back, he plays left tackle. Tyler Smith, who's filled in for him, probably slides inside the guard. They believe the line has played well, but that fundamentally it's probably right now, as constructed, a better run-blocking line than a pass-blocking line. Tyron Smith obviously would improve the pass protection. That's one of his specialties. He's one of the greatest in the league over the last decade at it. In terms of James Washington, it's a player they haven't had yet. He got hurt in camp. I think if they had signed Odell Beckham, James Washington's probably not a factor. And I think the fact that James Washington's practice window is opening and they're talking about getting him back tells you something about where they are on Odell Beckham. Yeah. I feel like it was probably like an either-or kind of thing. Yeah, he's a player. Once they traded Amari Cooper, they thought this is a guy that can help us fill in those gaps. So we'll see.
I mean, you talking about trying to stay face, right? Like, they openly courted, they slid in Odell DMs, they courted him. I thought it was a damn recruiting trip to like a Power 5 or something. And like to lose that, like it's to say, okay, now you got to go back to the other guys and say, no, we believe in you too. Right. I mean, don't come back to me, man. You was up there gushing, giving this dude heart emojis, gushy eyes, all that type of stuff, man. So I wonder how this affects him going forward. Listen, I understand Tyron Smith coming back really helps that offense, but it seems like it's going to be missing something. There's a lot of big shoes for James Washington to fill to be that dynamic playmaker.
Oh, so you're telling me that OBJ is not ready to go? was Dr. Ninkovich not correct on this? That 9 months ago, 9 to 10 months, having a second ACL injury, he wasn't going to be back and ready to go? And everyone was saying, sign OBJ, sign OBJ. He's the difference. He's going to put you over the top. Listen, these teams, they have to go through a physical. You have to run routes. You have to do certain things at a fast pace with someone pushing you and trying to tackle you at your knees. So again, OBJ, I said this before, his best interest would probably be to wait until next season. You try and push yourself too early. You already had 2 ACLs, the same one, just like Von Miller. He's doing the same knee now. Yeah. That's troubling because if you do it a third time, guess what? I don't
Thomas
think
Davis the only one that ever came back from it.
I don't think I know a receiver to have 3 ACL tears and come back. So again, you have to be careful, cautious, and make sure that you're putting yourself in the proper position.
They told us we were the wet blankets.
You don't know what you're talking about.
I'll give him his truth.
And then on Tyron Smith, he's got 4 Donjoys on. He's got double elbow, double knee.
So he looks like Barry Bonds on the football field when he gets out there.
He's Patrick Ewing out there with all the rubber.
But with all of that, and with Tyron Smith, and then if you get James Washington, is this a Super Bowl-looking type offense in your opinion?
Oh yeah, listen. There hasn't been any question about the Cowboys' offense. Yeah. No question at all. Like everyone talked about OBJ. I guarantee you the Dallas Cowboys looked at their MRI and were like, I don't know about this right here. This boy's ACL might look a little suspect. But they've never had problems scoring points. Dallas is traditionally with Dak Prescott been one of the highest scoring teams in the National Football League.
Especially since he's come back.
Absolutely. So listen, I've never had a question about the Dallas Cowboys offense. I would say, listen, the only thing about the Dallas Cowboys defensively, can they stop the run?
Exactly.
Can they stop the run? I always say, like, if you got to earn the right to rush the passer by stopping the run. That's the one question I have about the Dallas Cowboys. Can they consistently stop the run in order to, wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks?
I play the game of either or, right? When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles roster and you look at, man for man, who would you rather? And, I think you end up with, I'd rather have more players off the Philadelphia Eagles than I would off the Dallas Cowboys because I think, they're better at certain positions. But ultimately, it comes down to the play of the quarterback. Dak Prescott has a longer resume than Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts is ascending. And just because he doesn't have a long resume doesn't mean that he hasn't surpassed Dak Prescott because of the people that he have around.
I'm happy you brought up Jalen Hurts. We're going to talk about him.
Oh,
I got to take it. I do. I was on Von Miller yesterday. Miller out for the season, had surgery on Tuesday on his knee. Doctors discovered an ACL injury. He was hurt on Thanksgiving in Detroit. He was hoping he would return this month. Take a listen to Josh Allen.
We're extremely sad for him. We're a better team when he's playing. That's no doubt about that. There's going to be adversity every step of the way, and luckily we've got the guys that we do in this locker room. I thought our front office did a good job of bringing in the guys that we've brought in, for situations like this. Like Vaughn says, don't blink, and next man up.
All right, at the beginning of the season, everybody just about, it seemed like, had the Bills as their Super Bowl pick. So, Graz, what does this mean for the Bills?
Well, it's bad. Look, the reason I know. That's why you come for the hard.
That's a bold prediction right there.
First take is next. No, the reason they went out and signed Von Miller, I've been talking to Bills GM Brandon Beane earlier this year. He said, we couldn't get Patrick Mahomes on the ground on third down in the playoffs the last 2 years. This is a guy we feel like can help us. And sure enough, they go into Kansas City earlier this year, and Von takes over the game in the fourth quarter. So and gets Patrick Mahomes on the ground. So he proved that it was the right move. Without him, they're going to need somebody else to do that. If they had somebody else who could do that, they wouldn't have gone out and signed Von Miller for all that money in free agency. No amount of cliche spewing by the quarterback, right? Like next man up, one game at a time, whatever it is he's saying, can fix that.
Yeah.
They are in some trouble. Now again, everything's relative. They're still a very good team. They're still a playoff team. Yeah. They could still win the playoff in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. But they believed this was the missing piece, and now he's missing again.
Nico, do they win the Super Bowl with Von Miller out?
No, I don't think they do. I think that you brought him in for a reason. That was to get to the quarterback. And listen, your like margin for error in the playoff is razor thin. So when you bring in a player like Von Miller, you're trying to gain a play. You're trying to gain one possession to where it puts you over the top. And last year, you saw that against the Chiefs. They needed one play, and they weren't able to do it. That's why they went out and got Von Miller. That's why he's been able to close out games and get sack fumbles, get the ball off teams, and give his offense another opportunity. So I think that not having him in the playoffs is going to be a really big factor in them creating turnovers.
And it's the psychological effect of it, right?
Yeah, that's
he's the guy that you brought in. Like what happens most of the time when it's critical plays, the guy to have it. Good players can make plays just sporadically. Great players make timely plays. And they brought him in there to make timely plays. He was the closer, so now somebody else has to step up. I think this really puts them in a tough spot because now when you think about it, they're going to have to come out of character and when try and get pressure, they're going to have to try and blitz. And that's going to put that secondary, in a bind. I know Tre'Davious White is back, but without him being there, being a closer, that means they're going to have to be more aggressive. And that's going to expose that defense and not allow them to play that bend don't break. I think this puts them third in the AFC, in my opinion, as far as the Super Bowl, because they're good, but Joe Burrow has the closer. Trey Henderson's over there. Yeah. He's a guy that can close out. They already have Patrick Mahomes' number. It's Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and then the Buffalo Bills, and then the field.
Remember, they are short on the back end, right? Micah Hyde, the safety, not coming back. He's out for the year. Poyer's been hurt, so yeah.
Sorry. And I would add this, too. When you go on IR, you're not helping the guys on the field play.
Yeah,
like you can say, the tackle's setting this way. Go give him the rip that I would do. They were like, we can't do the way
you don't game plan for nobody else on that offensive line.
Exactly.
You have the game plan for.
When you talk about Von Miller, see what Von Miller does, he make everybody else better.
Yeah,
all the other guys
on the field.
He makes he makes all those guys on the defensive line better. Those guys are freed up, make one-on-one, make plays one-on-one. Now you take him away, it stresses everybody on the defense. So, listen, Buffalo's a very good team. Don't get me wrong, no question about that. Yeah. Great quarterback, but we can't understand the loss of Von Miller.
But you talk about the quarterback, and I remember at some point in the season we kept saying, hey, look, Josh Allen's trying to do too much. Now does he have to carry this team going forward? Yeah.
Well, listen, he already accounts for so much of their offense anyway. Yeah. I don't know how much more Josh Allen can do for this team.
Line him up at the end.
He's probably their best rusher. Obviously, he's one of the top quarterbacks we have in our league. Again, when you don't have Von Miller, when you get late in the season, you're playing all these great teams, and get into the postseason, you need a guy on the defensive side that can close you out. They don't have that.
I think you got an indication of how they want to play ball now. You see they slowed the offense down to protect that defense. They're trying to play more time of possession. Now they can't just go out there and lean on their defense because they don't want to expose their defense. Remember what happened last year, right? Whoever had the ball last in that Kansas City game won the game. So now Josh Allen has to do a great job. He can't leave 13 seconds out there anymore.
But that's the thing. Like, you could not